Hello there, this is Dimitris Christou and I'm back with another Blender video tutorial. For this one we will create a nice animated clip using Blender. So let's begin. We have the default cube selected. I'll hit the delete key on my keyboard to delete it, and I'll hit Shift A and add a cylinder. Let's move on down here to the cylinder options. I'm going to change the vertices from 32 to 8 and change the radius from 1 to 0.05. Okay, and I'll also change the depth. Let's set it to 1. Okay, also change the cap fill type from n-gon to nothing. Okay, I'm hitting 1 on my memory keyboard and then 5 for the front ortho view. And what I'll do is hit the tab key to switch from object to edit mode and hit R to rotate. Let's rotate the cylinder 90 degrees. Okay, and I'm rotating it on the y-axis. Alright. Now I'm hitting tab to switch back to object mode, and I'll hit Z to grab the cylinder and move it down and left at about here. Alright, looking good. I'll also hit 7 on my memory keypad for the top ortho view and hit Z and Y, and let's move our cylinder 1 unit, well actually -1 unit on the y-axis. Alright. What I'll do now is, let's take a look at our cylinder here, is move over to the object modifiers, click this little icon to move to the modifiers, and I'm going to click add modifier, and let's add an array. Alright. The array uses the relative offset of 1. We are going to use it as it is. But before moving on, I'm going to hit the tab key. Let's do this. You can see the cylinder here. I'll hit Ctrl R for a loop cut, and then hit the left mouse button and then the right mouse button to place the loop cut right in the middle of the cylinder. Alright. Tab key again, and let's move on. One more thing I'll do for the array modifier here is to click merge to merge the array, the cloned objects, so Blender treats them as one. So I'm increasing the count. Let's set it up to 20. Okay, for our cylinder here. Alright. And now I'm going to add another modifier, and this will also be an array. Okay. So for this array, what I'm going to do is uncheck the relative offset and check the constant offset. And I'm going to set the constant offset 1 unit on the y-axis, hitting 7 on my memory keypad to switch to top ortho view. And for the y-axis, I'm going to use just 3, a count of 3. We want the object to be cloned 3 times on the y-axis. Alright. Now I'm going to collapse this one, and we want another array. And this time around we will also uncheck relative offset and check constant offset. And I'm going to offset this, let's set it to 0.5 on the z-axis. Okay. Now 1 on my memory keypad for the front ortho view. I'll bring, just for framing my camera, the count of the first array on the array that works on the x-axis. Let's bring it down to say 11. I think we're good at about here. And I'll also increase the count for the array that works on the z-axis. Let's increase the count for this one. Let's set it up to, and let's also bring the Z to 1 and bring the count down. We don't want to have all that many clones. I think we're good at about here. Now I'm hitting Del on my memory keypad to frame my selected object, and Ctrl Alt and 0 to roughly position the camera at the place I was looking the object. Right mouse button click on this frame here to select the camera, and let's take a look. Going to zero out the X and Z values, and let's set the Y to -15. Okay, let's move it back a bit more, -18. Okay, now that we have the camera here framed, I'm going to increase the count for the X array. Let's set it up to 22. Okay. Now what I'll do is, first of all, I'm going to add a cast modifier, and you can see that the cast modifier works on the center of the object and the center of the object, and the first object that was cloned was at about here. But I want my cast to work right in the middle of my scene, so I'm going to hit Shift A and add empty and plain axis. Selecting the object again, the lines, and moving down to the cast options. Let's collapse the array so we can see. For the cast modifier, I'm going to use the empty as a control object, select it, and now you can see that the cast modifier works in the center of the scene. What I'll also do is change the radius for the cast modifier a bit. I want it to start off the center and push the object towards outside, actually, using a cast type of a sphere. I think we're good at about there. Increase the radius a bit more. Alright, let's set it up to 7. Okay. Now selecting the camera, I want to frame my camera better. I'm going to move to the camera options and change the focal length. Let's set it to 28. Okay, looking good. And what we'll actually do now to animate it is to select the object, and we won't be using we won't be animating the empty here, but we will actually work with the lines. Okay. I'm going to increase the count for the first array, for the array that works on the x-axis, slightly, just so we're having more of the line to work with. Let's set it up to 30. Okay. And what I'll do now, and remember the empty here is stationary at the middle of the scene, I'm going to hit G and X to grab and move the array on the x-axis. Alright, looking good. I'm going to move it away from the camera. Alright, and I think we're good at about here. I'll hit the I key to insert, or perhaps let's do it the other way, moving to the active data for the cylinder, for the object here, and I'm going to right click on the X location and insert a single keyframe. That way we're not having keyframes that we don't need for the Y or Z axis. Okay, now we have a keyframe for frame 1. Let's move up to frame, say 180. Hit Z and X to grab and move my object, my system here on the x-axis. And let's move it, and away from the camera as well. Now for this new position, I'm going to place my cursor over the X location, hit the right mouse button, and insert a single keyframe again. Okay, let's take a look, moving back to frame 1, and hitting play. And you can see how this one works. Alright. What we also want, and let's do it quickly, I'm splitting the 3D view and changing the right part into a graph editor. And we have the curve for the X location animation. What I'm going to do for this one is simply move over to key click and change the interpolation mode to linear, so that we're having a constant spin for the X animation. Alright, looking good. Let's move back and hit play to take a good look. Alright, and as you can see, we're having just a tiny bit of geometry for the cylinders here, and this creates the cast modifier who creates some odd geometry. So first thing I'll do is change the shading to smooth, okay, and what I'll also do is move over to the modifiers, and I'm going to add a subdivision surface to smoothen things up. What I'll also do is change the render form to, let's set it up to 3. Okay. Now what we need for this one, let's take care of the lamp. I'm going to hit Alt G and Alt R for the lamp. Let's reset the position and the rotation for the lamp, and I'll just hit G. Let's put it about here, and 1 on my numeric keypad for the front ortho view, G and Z. Let's move it at about here. Well, actually we won't be using the lamp a lot. So selecting the object again, and let's add a material to it. Moving over to the material options, and we have a material already. I'm going to bring the specular density down to 0. Let's change the diffuse color. Let's make it nice, bright, say green. Okay. What I'll also do is click wire. Alright. Let's take a look through the camera. I'm hitting 0 on my numeric keypad for the camera perspective view. And let's take a look. We have the lines appearing on the left, moving on, and then moving to the right. Alright. Looking good. I think we can add some quick compositing here. I'm splitting the 3D view, changing the top part into a node editor. Click here and use nodes. Going to use a Shift A to add output viewer so I can see what I'm doing. And simply I'm going to add a glare node. And let's render an image to take a look to see how it all looks. Let's render an image at about here. Okay. And what I'll also do to make my scene here look interesting is turn the background. I'm moving over to the world options and change the horizon color to a total black. Alright. Let's also change the material and let's add some emit to the material. Let's set it down to 0.8 for this one. Alright. Render again. Alright, looking good and bright. Okay. Let's change let's take the output of the glare node and make it an input of the viewer. And let's also check backdrop. Alright. I'm going to bring the threshold down. Let's set it down to 0.3 or 0.2. And I'm going to change the streaks to 2. Okay. And the streaks are applied horizontally, and that is how I want it to look. And before that, let's hit Shift D, duplicate the glare node, and change the first one into a fog glow. Let's see how this one will look. And it looks pretty interesting. Alright. Let's set threshold down. Okay. Now what I'll also do is hit Shift A and add distort and lens distortion. Pretty basic compositing. Take the output of the lens distortion node and make it an input of the composite. And let's add a dispersion of 0.1. And as you can see, this distorts our image a lot, so I'm going to change it to projector. Okay, looking good. What you can also do, and I'm hitting the escape key to move back to my 3D view here, is modify the material a bit. I can also click ramp and change the right part color. Let's set it to a nice yellow with a bit of orange in it. Let's set it 0.3. Okay, and let's render now. And this adds a slight color variation. Let's take another look. Selecting this one, and this is black with the alpha set to 0. Let's set it up, and this actually takes control of the material. Let's bring it up and then add about here 0.2. Okay, and change the input. Let's set it to normal and see how this will look. Okay, it doesn't change a lot, and that's because we're having a very bright material. Let's bring the mid down to 0.5 and make this one a bit stronger. At about here 0.08. Okay, and let's also change the position a bit, 0.7, bringing the orange closer to the green one. And let's take a look now. Slightly better. You can see the orange is tint here. Okay, feel free to work with the material as you please and even add some texture to it. So this is it. This looks pretty interesting, I think, and it will serve you nice as a background clip. And this is clearly loopable. You can see it starts from the left side, does its thing, and moves on to the right side. And if you move up to frame 100, you can see it going away on the right side. So this is it. This is a nice little clip. What you can also do is, for example, use a simple deform modifier like a bend or something like that. Let's add it to take a look and add another variation for your scene. You can see how this one, and I'm guessing that this is set to twist. Okay, how this one changes the entire look of the clip, or to bend, and you can see that this also creates a nice cool looking result. Of course, you might have to adjust the motion of the object in proportions to the empty, and you can also set the empty to be the origin of the simple deform. So you can experiment with it. There are lots of things to do, lots of things to try. You can try different materials. You can try rendering this one using cycles and all. I think you can create some nice little clips with that. And I'm going to save this. Let's save it. Line flow. So this is Dimitris Christou. Hope you liked it, and thanks for watching.